Caregiving is considered a chronic stressor because of the persistent and often physically demanding caregiving tasks and emotional toll of caring for a loved one with a debilitating illness. Caregivers consistently report more stress than non-caregivers. Chronic stress is associated with adverse health outcomes such as high blood pressure, poor immune status, and mortality. Research performed on caregiver stress and mortality found that caregivers who had high stress are more likely to be younger and married and have less social support than others. They are now more likely to care for a spouse or a person with dementia, live with the care recipient, and have less time away from caregiving. The study also found that perceived stress, rather than caregiving, increased mortality risk. Declines in caregiver health have been associated with caregivers who perceive themselves as burdened. Caregiver burden and strain are related to the caregiver's own poor health status. Increased health risk behaviors such as smoking and higher use of prescription drugs. Research has found that caregivers are at risk for fatigue and sleep disturbances, lower immune functioning, altered response to influenza shots, slower wound healing, increased insulin levels and blood pressure, altered lipid profiles, and higher risk for cardiovascular disease. Surprisingly, caregivers who are not stressed have a lower mortality rate than non-caregivers. Current research underscores the importance of determining caregivers' level of stress and to make recommendations to reduce it. Caregiver burden and depressive symptoms are the most common negative outcomes of providing care for the elderly and chronically ill. Caregiver burden is defined as negative reaction to the impact of providing care on the caregiver's social, occupational, and personal roles, and appears to be a precursor to depressive symptoms. Family caregivers of older adults experience high levels of chronic stress and psychological distress, which are known to impair cognition. Caregivers who are stressed exhibit deficits in learning, recall, and working memory. Care recipients' functional, cognitive, and emotional status also predicts caregiver burden and depression. The constant concern for managing disruptive behaviors, such as turning on stoves, walking into the street, taking too many pills, yelling, screaming, or cursing, also negatively affects caregivers, which could lead to potential risks to the care recipient.